Tomorrow morning, the world would wake up exactly the same way it always does. Alarms ringing, coffee brewing, phones lighting up with notifications, and then somewhere between the headlines and the silence that follows, everything would change. There would be no air raid sirens at first, no mushroom clouds on the horizon, no dramatic announcement declaring that the world is now at war. Just a single confirmation, a verified alert. Diplomacy failed, escalation confirmed. World War III has begun. This is not a movie scenario. This is not speculation driven by fear. This is a serious question grounded in modern reality. What if World War III started tomorrow, not years from now, not after months of preparation? Tomorrow. To understand what that would actually mean, we have to remove the myths, strip away Hollywood imagery, strip away panic-driven assumptions, and examine carefully and honestly how a global war would unfold in the 21st century. Because the most dangerous thing about World War III is not what people imagine, it is what they don't. World War III would not begin with a single global declaration. There would be no moment where every nation lines up on opposite sides overnight. It would begin the way modern wars always do, through escalation, miscalculation, and momentum. A regional conflict expands. An alliance obligation activates. A red line is crossed, perhaps unintentionally. The what-if scenario is simple, but its consequences are vast. A major confrontation between great powers spirals beyond containment. NATO is drawn in. Russia responds. China is forced to decide whether neutrality is still possible. The United States commits fully. And suddenly, the largest military systems in human history are no longer posturing. They are moving. The defining difference between World War III and every global conflict before it is not ideology or geography. It is capability. In 1914, mobilization took weeks. In 1939, it took days. Tomorrow, war would begin at the speed of data. Within minutes of confirmation, military satellites would shift into wartime posture. Space would become the first battlefield, not through explosions but through interference. GPS signals disrupted, communications jammed, anti-satellite systems activated to blind adversaries. The public would feel it almost immediately. Navigation systems malfunctioning, internet outages spreading, financial transactions slowing or failing. Cyber warfare would strike before a single bomb ever fell. Power grids would be tested, water systems probed, air traffic control networks stressed, not to steal information but to destabilize trust. Unlike previous wars, civilians would not be behind the front lines. They would be inside the systems being attacked. Now compare this to history. In World War II, civilians feared bombers overhead. In World War III, they would fear silence screens going dark, systems failing without explanation. Modern societies are efficient, highly optimized, interconnected, and because of that, they are fragile. As governments scrambled to secure infrastructure, military forces would begin visible movement. Naval fleets would deploy into contested waters. Submarines, many already at sea, would receive sealed orders. Strategic bombers would disperse across continents to prevent being destroyed on the ground. This dispersal matters because it is one of the clearest signals that nuclear forces are being prepared even if no one intends to use them. Here is the critical reality: nuclear weapons would not be used first. Not immediately, not casually. Despite popular fear, nuclear war is not driven by rage. It is driven by doctrine, warning systems, and last resort calculations. World War III would almost certainly begin as a conventional war. Massive missile strikes on military targets, air battles over contested regions, naval engagements in narrow choke points. But the scale would be unprecedented. Hypersonic weapons would compress decision-making time from hours to minutes. A missile traveling 5 times the speed of sound leaves almost no room for verification. Was it nuclear? Was it conventional? Was it even aimed at you? That uncertainty is lethal, because when warning times shrink, mistakes multiply. During the Cold War, leaders had minutes to decide the fate of the world. Tomorrow, they may have seconds. As fighting intensified, the global economy would begin to fracture. Shipping lanes would close, insurance markets would freeze, energy prices would spike violently, not gradually. Factories would shut down not because they were destroyed, but because components stopped arriving. Food supply chains would strain. Medical shortages would appear. Governments would prioritize domestic stockpiles. This is where World War III diverges most sharply from World War II. Back then, economies mobilized slowly. Rationing followed planning. Tomorrow, the shock would be immediate. Just-in-time systems would collapse into just-too-late systems. Emergency powers would be invoked. Borders tightened. Information managed not to deceive, but to prevent mass panic. Still, fear would spread. Because everyone would be asking the same question. Will this go nuclear? History offers a sobering comparison. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, the world came within hours of nuclear war, largely without the public knowing. One misinterpreted signal. One submarine commander nearly made the wrong decision. Tomorrow there would be dozens of such moments, simultaneously, across continents. Each escalation would increase pressure for the next. If a major city was struck with conventional missiles, leaders would face impossible choices. Respond forcefully and risk escalation, or hold back and risk deterrence collapsing. Deterrence depends on credibility. Credibility depends on action. And action creates consequences. Eventually, the nuclear threshold would stop being theoretical, not because leaders desired annihilation, but because they feared losing everything if they did not act first. Even a limited nuclear exchange would not remain limited. Once that door opens, there is no reliable way to close it. The immediate effects would be catastrophic. Cities destroyed, millions dead within hours, infrastructure erased. The long-term effects would reshape civilization. Soot from burning cities could block sunlight. Global temperatures could drop. Agriculture could fail across continents. These are not exaggerated fears. They are supported by decades of scientific modeling. And yet there is a paradox. The same systems that make World War III so dangerous also make it less likely. Because leaders understand this, they know that victory in a global war is meaningless if the world itself breaks. That knowledge has prevented catastrophe before. It may prevent it again. But prevention is not guaranteed. World War III would not be caused by insanity alone. It would be caused by structure, by alliances that remove flexibility, by technologies that outrun human judgment, by political systems that punish hesitation, and by humans still fallible operating machines that move faster than thought. If World War III started tomorrow, it would not look like the past. It would appear quieter at first, more abstract, more confusing, until it wasn't. The real danger is not that we imagine this scenario too vividly. It is that we imagine it too simply. Because the future of war is not fire and fury on day one. It is tension, misinterpretation, cascading failures. And the question we should be asking is not only what would happen, but how close are we to finding out? Because if tomorrow arrived and the headlines changed, would the systems designed to protect us be fast enough to stop what they were built to fight? Or would we discover too late that the world learned the wrong lessons from its past? That question hangs over the present, and it leads to another. What if the next global war doesn't begin with missiles at all, but with something quieter? Something we don't recognize as war, until it's already reshaped the world. That is the next what if.